So in this section we will discuss 5 ESS switching system here. So 5 ESS telephone switch is basically a 5th generation means class 5th electronic telephone switching system. So it is basically a very efficient and very elegant switching system started from North America by AT&T Bell Lab. It is basically having 3 units. This 3 module is basically switching module, communication module and administrative module. So administrative module, so we have 3 basic modules. One is administrative module, this is communication module, and this is distributed switching module basically. So administrative module contains central computers. Communication module is basically a time divided switch, function of a time divided switch, and switching module performs the function of multiplexing, coding and other work of interfaces to the external equipments. So first we will discuss about switching module. So switching module having some processors. So this is basically in its starting it started with 8086 processors, but when due time functionality expands, so this 8086 processor replaced by Motorola 86000 processors. So module control called module control unit. This thing is called module control unit. So this one is consisting of processors. Okay, we have other unit as well. This unit called interface unit. So where is interface unit? This are the distributed interface units. So function of the interfaces unit is to provide various service to lines and trunks of the switching module, include tone generation and detections. So this interface, basic function of the interface unit is we know to establish any call we need to transmit several control signal, that is tones. So this tone generation and detection is the basic function of these interface units. So we have link interface unit as well. This is link interface circuit. Basically function is to connect the mode optical fibers to the other SMs. As I said, this switching module are the distributed units. So the function of the link interface circuit is to have connections with the other switching modules. Okay, now we have one very important unit. This is time slot interchanger. So it uses random access memory to delay each piece sample to fit into a time slot which will carry its call through the exchange to another, or in the same case in the same switching module. So if so it is basically to forward it is basic function is to forward the calls to the other exchange, or even the same exchange in case of any call okay handled by junctures from PSTN. Basically, as we said, communication module, function of the communication module is very similar to the centrally processed time switch. So this is a central time switch of the exchange called communication module. So we have time multiplex switch on a unit. So function of the time multiplex unit is to receive and send to the calls to the appropriate destinations of the switching module. Okay, to receive and forward the signals, time multiplex signals. And external switching module, we have external switching module here is basic functions, having the basic functions of routings of the phone calls. So this communication unit having basic function as first of all it is a time switch, centralized process time switch. Another is to forward the multiplexed signals. Another function is to route the calls. Okay. Third one is administrative module. So basic function of administrative module is the administrative function. That means upgrading the softwares, upgrading and installing the softwares, uh, storage, maintenance, all the administrative work is being maintained by this. Administrative module is having a dual processor system. This is basically AT&T 3V series of processors. Um, 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 American telephone and telegraph companies uh, is maintained. Okay, it is having. It is from American Telephone and Telegraph Company, 3V series of processors and running on Unix real-time systems. Okay, it is. It can store the data. It can store the softwares, backups, all the related data from peripherals. Okay, uh, except billing related information, all the thing is being stored here in this tape unit or in disk. Okay, now something said here is central and peripheral processor software and translations. So it stores software, as I said earlier, uh, because any 5 ESS switching system having billions and billions lines of softwares, so it need to be upgraded. And even okay, peripheral processing and translation is important, because let's consider some subscriber from US, that is North America, is calling to some other subscriber setting in Europe. So North America means some on from ANSI standard, and in Europe means some on from ITU standard. So we need to some interpreting between this, because I am sending someone in my own protocol, and that what should be the equivalent of that protocol, says someone from ITU calling to someone from ANSI, someone in ANSI. So what will happen? So whatever ITU will send in its own protocol, okay, that is encrypted in its own protocol, and that to be decoded okay, in ANSI standard. So what should be the equivalent of that? So that is called translations. And other input output processors of controlled storage display, we have display units, say video display units, then we have printers and several central operation like maintenance. Okay, so software upgradation. So all the functionality, administrative functionality, is being controlled by this administrative unit. So accumulatively we have basically 5 ESS telephone system is a 5th generation telephone electronic switching system having 3 modules: switching module, communication module, and administrative module. Function of the switching module is basically uh, routing and what, and it is basically the communicating with peripherals. This is the basically the functions, and forwarding the time multiplexed signal is a function. Function of communication unit is basically is a centralized time switch function of that exchange. Okay, and routing as well, it can be the function of that, called routing. And function of the administrative unit is all the software upgradations, then then translation of the softwares, and then dual processor system. It is having dual processors. One is in a running condition, another one is in a standby condition, so that any chance should not be left for interruptions. Okay, and all other displaying and storing of data, except billing informations that can be handled by these administrative units. So I think that's all about this switch.